Now let's take a look at some other kinds of substituents other than alkyl substituents. Very common one is halogens. When you have a hydrocarbon with halogen substituents, these are called haloalkanes. So here's one. Now all the rules are the same. So first we're going to identify the longest carbon chain, being very careful to realize that this bromine atom is not a carbon atom, right? This is a bond to a bromine atom, so that does not count as a carbon. So we have a 5-carbon chain. Now we are going to number right to left because there is a substituent on carbon 1 on this side. Now, luckily the rest is the same at this point. So we're going to see that we have a methyl group, and then we have 3 halogen groups, and these are going to be abbreviated thusly. We have bromo, chloro, fluoro, and iodo, depending on whether it is a bromine, chlorine, fluorine, or iodine atom. And the rules for alphabeticity are also the same. So the substituent that occurs soonest alphabetically is bromine, and we have 2 of them, one on carbon 1 and another on carbon 3. So we will list that first. But we do have 2 of them, so we will list them simultaneously. It's going to be 1,3-dibromo. Next, we have a chlorine on carbon 2, so that is 2-chloro. And then lastly, the methyl group on carbon 4. And it is a pentane. So once again, alphabeticity dictates that we are going to have bromine before chlorine before methyl. And bear in mind that the prefix di is not taken into account for alphabeticity. Let's talk about another substituent, the hydroxyl group. A hydrocarbon that bears a hydroxyl group is called an alcohol. So a hydroxyl group is the OH group that we see here. Now, the hydroxyl group is a group that modifies the behavior of a molecule sufficiently that we deem it necessary to modify the suffix of the molecule. So this is no longer going to be an alkane, it is an alcohol, and so the suffix is no longer ane, it's ol, O-L. So here we see that we have a 5-carbon molecule. We're going to have to number this right to left to give the hydroxyl group occurring sooner. And so now what we are going to call this is 2-pentanol. Okay, so we are going to have to say where the hydroxyl group occurs, but we are going to list the presence of the hydroxyl group in the suffix of the molecule now. So this is OL for an alcohol. Now, here's the thing. The hydroxyl group takes priority over alkyl and halogen in terms of the priority of numbering left to right or right to left. So what that means is, for this example, we will identify the longest carbon chain just as we normally do. However, whereas before we would probably have decided to number left to right because an iodo group would occur on carbon 1 if we number from the left, because the hydroxyl group takes priority over any alkyl or halogen substituent, we are going to have to number from the right to the left because that will specifically give the hydroxyl group occurring soonest. So we will number this way only for the reason that it gives the hydroxyl group occurring sooner. So now we will simply, as you would expect, list what we have. We have 6-iodo, 2-hexanol. So let's summarize what we've learned today. If we want to name a simple hydrocarbon, there are 2 things we must do. The first thing we have to do is identify the longest carbon chain. Then we have to number that chain from left to right or right to left, depending on which direction gives a substituent occurring soonest. If a substituent occurs on the same carbon, regardless of which side we start from, we will number it so as to give the one occurring sooner alphabetically as occurring soonest, or if we have a hydroxyl group or some other substituent that takes priority over alkyl or halogen, we are going to number it so as to give that substituent occurring the soonest. Once we have numbered the carbon chain, the second thing we must do that is completely separate from the algorithm that we used to assign the carbon numbers is that we must list the substituents alphabetically. If one particular substituent occurs more than once, we will name all of them at the same time with a prefix indicating the frequency with which that substituent occurs. Also remember, disregard almost all prefixes in terms of alphabeticity except for ISO. Thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe to my channel for more tutorials, and as always, feel free to email me with questions, ProfessorDaveExplains@gmail.com.